ex-guest, and it's Ray Lambert, who I've met a couple of times. I know his dad, I know his family. Some of you might know his great-great-uncle, George Lima, who was an icon here in this state, and big family, great family. But he's here because he's a licensed therapist, and he has some things that he would like to say about that, as well as the environment. So Ray, welcome to the show. He's a first-time guest.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Won't be your last time. But listen, I gave the audience a little bit about your background in terms of talking about George Leon Sr. But where were you born and raised?
So I was born and raised in East Providence.
Okay.
Yeah, and then went to college in Boston College.
Go Eagles.
Yeah, go Eagles. Our sports kind of stunk by the time I got there, but you know, the academics were still good, so I was happy.
Yeah.
I got a psychology degree, a bachelor's degree from there. Came back home because rent is way too high in Boston, so I came running back. And I worked at Bradley for 5 years, dealing with children with mental health issues. During that time, I also obtained my master's degree from Johnson & Wales, and I became a clinical mental health specialist, and started working at East Bay, which you know, and I was working with predominantly adults that were very limited. And I was working there for about 4 years, and recently have started my own practice, Lambert Therapy and Wellness, and it's in kind of a joint conjunction with RI Counseling and Associates. It's a joint partnership based out of Cranston.
Oh, great. I mean, I'm really impressed. I mean, you know, checking out bachelor's here, master's here, working at Bradley, working for East Bay Community Action Program. Yeah. Great credentials, great experience. You know, but why did you go into the mental health field? I mean, what, you know, you're in college. I don't think most freshmen, they don't know what the major is going to be. I know I didn't. But what made you go that way?
Luckily for me, I had two things going my way. The first thing was a lot of the movies I was watching, and a lot of TV shows, whenever there would be a therapist that would pop up and talk to people that were laying on the couch, I always thought it was just such a cool job. It was just one of those things that just struck to me, and I kept with. The second thing was my senior year, I had to do a senior report, and this usually requires us to shadow somebody and document what their life is like and things of that nature. And I have an uncle who is a psychiatrist out of Jersey, so I spent a whole vacation. I was actually able to go into some sessions with him and see everything firsthand. And so I got the best of both of those worlds, where it was on TV and it was in person, and I fell in love with it. And psychology was also a subject where I could obtain the knowledge and then apply it right away. It wasn't like a history or math where you have to wait until the perfect scenario happens. So it was something that could be instantly applicable.
Sure. You know, I had a best friend, my best friend from college. I remember he was a psych major, but then his junior year he decided to go pre-med. So it was kind of late to be going pre-med. He ended up having to go 2 additional years after graduating. And then he went 4 years of med school and he became a pediatrician. But I just remember his first 2 years, you know, he was psych major and talked about psych all the time. And something clicked and he said, no, I want to go become an MD. And go start pre-med in junior year. Now, what populations are you focused in on now?
Yeah, so right now I'm working with kids and adults. I'm working with kids, adults, male, female. I'm also working with couples, so that's like a new thing of mine. Doing kind of like all the above. I think my work experience actually shows that I'm capable of working with all the different fields, and so I've been having a lot of success with all the different populations.
Good. Now, since COVID, I know mental health has been talked about quite a bit. What trends are you seeing now that we're kind of not, I hate to say post-COVID because COVID's still around, but there was stressors going on in the country before that. I mean, in the Black community, we've been in perpetual stress since we came to this country. So what trends do you see right now in 2023?
So right now there's definitely an uptick in depression and anxiety. Depression, mainly a lot of people are not where they want to be in life, and they're looking at social media and they're looking at a lot of individuals' highlight reels and they're comparing it to their real life, which will never amount to be the same thing. Also, we all have a vision of like where we want to be in life, and sometimes that can get skewed, whether it be the economy, whether it be politics, whether it be whatever. And sometimes when we fall off the track of where we're supposed to be, it's hard to get back on track. Another thing is the use of coping skills. A lot of us cope in different ways. Sometimes, you know, hip hop songs might not be the best way to tell us how to deal with our problems, and from our parents knowing what's right, what's wrong, how you should talk about your problems, what you should do when faced with certain situations might not be actually long-term beneficial for us to do, such as drinking, smoking, etc.
Yeah, I think since the advent of social media has really changed things, especially with adolescents, and you keep on hearing about how it affects teenagers.
Yeah.
And I'm always like saddened by some of that, because I know that, to a certain extent, suicides have increased, and some of that is because of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the comparison, plus we're in hyperinflation, so, in terms of buying a home, in terms of doing certain things like starting a business, it's probably harder now than it's ever been for anybody. And so you consider comparing to your parents and grandparents, it's almost like a false comparison, because the challenges are different, and to a certain extent, much harder.
Yeah, and you have to be like really intelligent, because in one side of it, the reason why I use social media so much is because I get to visually see things I wouldn't have seen otherwise, right? So it might inspire me, it might motivate me, but that is the positive way of looking at it. Now, if I'm constantly comparing myself to someone else in California, I'm never going to be happy, I'm never going to feel equivalent. However, if I can take that and say, oh, I love what they're doing, let me move forward and inch my way towards that, and be happy with the small progress I am making, that's the beauty of it.
How about people that, you say depression and anxiety, but there's also bipolar and schizophrenia. There are different aspects of mental health, and I happen to, in my family, there's a history of mental illness in my family, so I happen to know about this from birth, actually. Talk about bipolar and schizophrenia, because are they declining as the symptoms of mental illness, while the other ones are increasing? How are they stacked?
So they're not declining. They're more so, especially schizophrenia, is more so a chemical imbalance. So, the outside pressures aren't really going to affect the chemical imbalance. And so when I say anxiety and depression, it's because those are outside factors that are now coming into you, rather than an inside going out.
Sure, I got it. But you deal with those as well in your practice. Okay, what do you hope to achieve?
So what I tell all of my clients is I get a natural high off of people doing well, off of people doing better, people coming to me 1 month, and then on month 3, they have noticeably successfully grown in a lot of different aspects of their life. And I get a natural high. I get very, very happy about that. I get energized. This has actually been one of the first times in my life where I would leave the office and be filled with energy, because I just gotten off the phone, or I've had an in-person conversation, or I had a video call, and I'm helping to inspire, I'm helping and motivating someone to be their best selves. And in return, I get that energy of someone, getting back on that right path.
But it must be stressful for you in a way, because before you said you worked for, Butler? Bradley, okay. Nayoka worked for Bradley and East Bay. Well, we have the East Bay Mental Health Center. How does it feel to now have to be on your own as an entrepreneur, as opposed to being a salaried employee? That's a little bit different. And deal with all of this. How has that changed?
Yeah, so it was definitely a risk, you know what I mean? Instead of like living with a comfortable salary, I'm now on my own, and it's kind of, I got to bring home the bacon per se. But I am well aware of my talent, and I'm well aware of my intellectual capabilities, and I know that, whoever kind of meets me and crosses paths with me understands that, I do bring something special to each conversation, never mind like a therapy session. So when it came time to like meeting clients and retaining clients and having clients want to come back for months on end, I really didn't have any second guesses when it came to that for myself, and that has to do with a lot of work myself, right? Because I wasn't always as confident. I wasn't always the person that would set out to be on his own. It was something that I also had to work on. So I also get enjoyment of giving people my tricks and my coping abilities, so hopefully they can kind of be that version of themselves.
Sure. Now, often you have, I'm going to switch up, you have mass shootings, and sometimes they'll say the person had mental illness, but the negativity, it's almost like the person could have been different. I mean, they didn't have to be the perpetrator of this mass killing. It's almost as if mental illness didn't matter at all, or they blaming the person for their own mental illness. It seems like when I look at media accounts, how do you look at that when a person's mentally ill and they've committed, a crime and a murder, whatever, and they just want to just kill the person that did it?
Right. I think that is definitely a factor. Now, will we be able to stop all of them? Probably not. But if it's like identified and it's, in an instance where people are more vocal about the situation, that person can definitely receive a lot more help than that person was getting. I've dealt with a lot of people that were on their last leg and felt like suicide was an option. However, because of talking with me and reframing their thought process and giving them slights of hope and giving them a new aspect of like, okay, man, we're not doing so well on this, but look at this. You weren't even looking over here when you were doing so great.
Right.
And when you're in that kind of like thought process and that level of depression, it's very tunnel vision. So as a therapist, what we like to do, or what I like to do, I'll speak for myself, is we like to pinpoint things outside of what you're seeing, outside of your tunnel vision, to open you up a little bit, like, oh, okay, like I'm going through this, but I still have this going on.
So not knowing the individuals that, let's say, are behind some of these mass killings that are mentally ill, do you think that's a big part of what it was with them? They didn't see the positive side of life?
I would say that it would be incredibly hard for someone to do something like that if they did see a positive side of life. I would say that.
Okay, so that's, if somebody could have reached them and shown them that positive side, that might have kept them from doing it.
Correct.
Okay, so that's that important, seeing somebody that is a professional like you to help them through this stuff, so they can kind of see the positive side.
Right. And on the humanistic side, that's even important when you talk about self-sabotage, right? Like we see a lot of people like, we're gonna drink away our problems and things like that. So even something more humanistic like that, if they view something as more positive and see a brighter side of things, they'll do that less as well.
In the last minute we have, let's talk about mental health and people of color. How do you see that being different than the general population of mental health?
Right. So I believe that our population needs it the most, and especially being like a black male, I'm less than 5% of licensed therapists are black male. So I have a long list of clientele per se, and there's a small amount of me. So I am hoping to, whether it be the show or other media outlets, kind of like expand my reach and let all the young people know that you do have a voice in this aspect. And if you do want to give therapy a shot, I am the person to try to go to.
Right. What would you tell people in high school that might be thinking about, this as a career because they see you and say, wow, that's cool.
Right.
I didn't know that I could maybe have a career because I've never seen anybody look like me.
Yeah. Well, first, you definitely don't go into it for the money. It's not here, so don't go into it for the money. The second thing is, whether it be me or anything else, black people, we can do anything that we want to do. And so, like I told you before, I was passionate about this at a very young age.
Right.
So, whatever you're passionate in, just because you don't see that many black people doing it doesn't mean that we can't.
Because you didn't, and you did.
Correct.
Right. So they definitely should always not look at themselves as somebody that has to see somebody that looks like them. They can always set the path and be the first but not the last. Well, Ray, this has been fascinating. I know your dad for a long time, Ray Lambert Sr., and I know all your family, your uncle, especially George Lambert is like my mentor. George Lambert Sr., because I know he has a son named George Jr. So that was great. That's Ray Lambert. And at the top I had Nayoka Powell, who's running for Senate District 1 in Providence. Uncle Son of Fame loves you. I'm your host, Jim Vincent. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye for now.